Hello, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time it is you're watching this video. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to roast chestnuts over an open fire. Not quite Christmas time yet. If you can look behind me, you see still leaves on the trees, but it is the fall and chestnuts are ripe. These are Chinese chestnuts grown by a friend, gave us a handful of them, and I have 4 of them left, which is kind of sad because we've already eaten the rest of them, but for this video I have 4 of them. What we're going to do is roast them over an open fire. The song that is popular at Christmas time, I'm not going to sing it for you, but I always imagine that as lovers in there, lounging on a couch, inside, with a fireplace going, with nuts like this, chestnuts, in a roaster, which they make roasters, actually make things that close, stick into a fireplace and roast nuts, chestnuts in this case. I always imagine that. In this case, we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to be outside in an outdoor fire pit, and yes, I realize we're on a deck, and no, we won't burn the deck down. If we do, it'd make an awesome video, though. So, with my 4 beautiful chestnuts, I also have a nice cast iron mini skillet. So what we're going to do first is, with the knife that I'm waving around dangerously, is cut the chestnuts. I'm told that if you don't cut a chestnut before you roast it, it will explode. And being that I don't want to blow up my other chestnuts and blow them into the fire I have here, then I'm going to go ahead and score all of them. So what you do is cut an X on the chestnuts with a nice sharp knife. Can't really see it, but there's that. We'll do that quickly on all 4 of them. Lucky I don't have 15 of them. You'd have to wait and watch me cut 15 chestnuts like this. But all you need is one little X on the chestnuts, and that's a pretty good one. You should be able to see that pretty nice. It's a nice X, and I'm not going to cut myself, but there it is. And we'll cut this last one here too. Alright. Alright, so after we have them all cut, our 4 chestnuts, we're going to set our lovely skillet with the chestnuts in it into our fire pit. Now what I've done with the fire pit is I have a nice bed of coals in here. I'll show it to you in just a second. Not a raging fire, but a bed of coals underneath the grate where I can set this in there and leave it. It takes about 15 minutes for chestnuts to cook in this way. Like I said, we've done this before, but it takes about 15 minutes and you'll really see them crack open a little bit on that cross that I cut into them. So we'll look at that later on, and for now, I want to watch the chestnuts cook. So while we're waiting for the chestnuts to cook, these are Chinese chestnuts because the Native American chestnut that grew through all this country back in the 1800s and before was killed by a blight in the early 1900s, a fungal blight that came through and wiped them out. So people planted, and in fact this tree is 60 years old, at least that's what the guy who gave them to me said, planted those Chinese chestnuts kind of as a replacement, as a nut producing plant that does work. It is not native, but it does work, and that's where these nuts came from. And they do sell a nut roaster, and actually you can look up chestnut roaster on Google or Bing, and you can see where they sell an actual container or a metal cage type thing. You set them in and roast them in an open fire. So you can do that in your fireplace at home, but I figure we'd do it out here for this video because plenty of people have at least some outdoor space so they can make a fire in a chimenea or some kind of outdoor fire pit. So let's check on the nuts. So while these chestnuts are finishing up, I wanted to answer one question I just thought about, is why in the world roast chestnuts? Why not just eat them raw like a walnut or a pecan? One of the reasons is they taste a lot better if they're roasted. Really a wood fire with chestnuts gives them a great flavor, and they seem to be a little easier to digest, but they also just taste better, so that's one of the main reasons. I've eaten raw chestnuts before. They're not the best. Roasted chestnuts, though, I could eat them all day. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put my fancy, heavily used oven mitt on and pick them up. And you can see that nut meat exposed through the shells breaking. Pretty much once they do that, they're done. They're going to cook in here a little bit longer just because this thing is just so hot. You can see the shells kind of drying out, and you can see that yellow nut meat shining through. So, what we're going to do is set these aside and let them cool. So I've waited about 20 minutes after these have come off the fire and they're ready to eat. I've already kind of started peeling it, but you can see the yellow nut meat in there. You know they're ready whenever they start really cracking open the shells of the nut. So I can pull it off with my fingers. One thing you can do with roasted chestnuts is have a mix of butter and cinnamon and sugar. What is better than butter and cinnamon and sugar? You know what I'm saying? No matter what you put in there. You can dip the chestnuts into that. It tastes amazing. Right now I'm going to eat this just by itself because it tastes great on its own. So that's what I'm going to do. There it is. I'm not sure what that discoloration is, but there it is right there. Roasted chestnut. Amazing. Nutty, way better flavor than a raw chestnut. It tastes great. I could eat them all day. So, if you like this, let me know in the comments. Like this video, and then go roast your own chestnut.